elements, okay?
What
Do you know there is a list, a table, if you will, of
Periodic
all the
table.
elements that everything in the universe.
Periodic table.
The periodic table, yes. Oh, so you have your basic elements, like, what are some things on the
Water.
Oxygen, hydrogen,
Helium.
helium,
Nitrogen.
all the things, yes.
Carbon
And when you start
dioxide.
mixing them together, the compound elements, like
Oxygen.
water, what is water?
A liquid.
Like the scientific
H2O.
word.
Yeah, what are the elements in water?
You
What is
just
it made out of? Yeah. So have you heard H2O?
That's what he said.
So that's
Water.
hydrogen and oxygen, H and O.
Water.
Those are the two elements, okay? 2 parts hydrogen to oxygen, you make
Wait, I'm
water,
digging.
okay? So all things on Earth in the universe are just a mixture of all those elements. So if you know how those elements work and you know how to mix them all together, you can create some new things, okay? So that's why chemistry can be a lot of fun, because that's when you start mixing things together, okay? So in order to look at the elements, if you add temperature or pressure to different elements, you can get through the 3 states of matter. You guys talked about states of matter before? What are the 3 states of matter? You either have a solid, liquid,
Or gas.
or gas, right? Exactly. So let's look at water again. Let's look at water. So what is water in a liquid form, or I'm sorry, in a solid form? When water is solid, it's ice, right? So how do you get from ice to water?
Let it melt.
You melt. So what are you adding to it?
Heat.
Heat, right? Temperature. And if you keep adding heat, it turns into
A liquid. Or water. Or H2O.
solid, liquid, gas. So you ever have like steam over the stove, right? Because it's so hot, it's turning into gas, okay? So most of your elements are gonna go through the 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, gas. Now if you're gonna go in reverse, how do you get from a liquid to ice?
Freezing.
You're freezing, so you're dropping temperature. So it's just temperature, right? You move through the 3 states. Now, there are some elements that skip steps. It defies all knowledge. And one example of that is dry ice. Okay? So dry ice is not actually ice at all, because that implies water, right? It's not water, it's carbon dioxide.
Okay.
And when it is super, 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 super cold, it will turn to solid, okay?
Oh,
However,
that's what that is.
this is, do you guys remember, not all of you were here, oh, we didn't do snowflakes over here, that's right, okay. So,
We did the.
this is, so dry ice is dangerous, 1, because it's carbon dioxide, 2, because it's incredibly cold. This is negative 120 degrees.
We can put a glove on.
Negative. You know what it feels like when it's negative 5 outside, right?
Yeah.
So think negative 120, okay? And so that is why if you touch it with your bare hands, you will immediately burn your skin. It'll burn it. So it's like a frostbite, but immediately burning your skin, okay? So this is why we can never, never, never touch dry ice, okay? It is so cold, again, negative 120 degrees. So what do you notice in the solid form? What are you
Looks
noticing
like
about it?
snow.
Looks like snow.
Clothes.
What's that?
I guess you put it in her clothes.
I mean, that's okay, as long as it's not touching your skin. You also don't want to like breathe in a lot of it, okay? I mean, this is not a ton, right? But you don't want to like leave it in your car overnight kind of a thing, okay? Enclosed space, you don't want to breathe this in. This is carbon dioxide, this is what we breathe out, right? What do we breathe in? What do we
Air.
Oxygen, right? So this is carbon dioxide. So what are you noticing right away? You notice the color comes like snow?
You can see smoke coming out of it.
Exactly. So do you notice, so it's super cold in here, right? What are we adding to it? Temperature. So it's a lot warmer in the air. It is immediately going to the next state of matter, which is,
Ringtone.
yeah,
How does he put it in the water?
I'll explain that. Hold on just a minute. So we're going from a solid immediately to what's coming off?
A gas.
A gas. So you notice it's skipping a step. It's not melting. There's no liquid. So what's very cool about carbon dioxide is that it does completely skip a step. It will never be liquid, ever. It immediately goes from solid to a gas. So, and again, temperature, right? So it's warmer out here than it is in here.
It's not going to. but-
This is what you guys see in like special effects, like on like floats and in movies, and anytime they want that like mwaha, like smoke factor, it's usually from a lot of like dry ice.
Or a smoke machine.
And we call that sublimation, when it's going from, like it's evaporating straight into a gas. But you asked what would happen if it was put in water. What do you think would happen?
Yo, I know what happened.
So again, we're not melting so much into a liquid
Banana.
state,
Gas.
but this water is actually a bit warmer. Okay, it's a little bit warmer, so we're gonna add some more heat to it. So just the heat in the air, you've got a little bit of steam here. What do you think if we add more heat?
Evaporate.
Even more so, right? More gas, more gas. So that's what we want to do. Let's see
So
if I
where,
can-
I thought we was gonna do it.
where, can you find, because I know it's pretty easy to get dry ice, but where can you get the bag to hold the dry ice? Because I know you have to get a special bag.
Well, as long as it's in some kind of like insulator, like this is just an insulation cooler that you
Okay.
put your pop in or something, you know. So this is how they sell it at Meijer, this plastic
Yeah.
bag. And so, I mean, the real trick is just to make sure you're not touching it or breathing in a lot of the evaporated gas that comes off of it. So, nothing super special, any cooler really. But you have to be careful too that you don't have it so airtight because it'll blow up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because all that gas is gonna push. So you want to be able to have a little bit come out. Okay, so, yeah, it's too big. I gotta find a piece that will fit in our little bottle
Look
here
like you're
of water.
touching with your hand.
I'm touching the bag. I'm being very careful not to touch
Yeah, you,
the dry ice
it'll
itself.
mess you up.
Yeah, it hurts. It's an immediate burn.
Opposite of lava.
It might work. So you're right in that it
Is that kind of
will start evaporating, what we call sublimating, a lot quicker. So this is where it gets fun, you know, when you think, wow, science, you know. This is what they do, they'll just put it in water. So it does make it evaporate a lot faster. So it immediately, until it's completely gone. So it's just moving from a solid to a gas.
I like that.
Just like you can move, you know, from solid to a liquid, like we talked about, and a liquid to a gas, or the other way around, yes.
After I can evaporate the other one, there's just water left with the water being.
Yeah, it's just, then it's just the water, because it's all coming out. This is all, you guys can feel,
I
I
like
bet
it.
it's gonna be cold now.
and it is cold, there's smoke. Smoke is-
You recording this, Javon?
He gonna tag me if I can watch it.
This bottle works better than the others.
I know, it even sounds better in here. Yeah,
I don't
it's
feel
just
nothing.
steam. If you hold it over there, it's colder. It's like a colder smoke, which we're not used to, because usually smoke is warm, right? So, yeah, and what's fun about this,
That's cool.
Put out there some cake.
Yeah, why don't you put a bunch of ice in there? What will
I
happen?
want you to put another piece in.
What will happen if you put like 3 pieces of ice in there?
It will be a lot.
A lot of.
the trick is finding, I broke all this up into little pieces. The trick is to find one that'll
Fit.
fit in.
Ah,
There we go.
more smoke.
Oh, more smoke, yeah. So
I
it's
like
pretty
that.
fun.
Look at the floor, look at this.
Right.
You can say it, but I'm-
Now, and that's a good observation, is like, where's the smoke going? It's not necessarily, and Kirsten's table is like, probably, it's not coming out here like smoke, it's going down, and that shows like how heavy that gas is. Now, what's really fun is to start playing with it, so we can make bubbles. So what's normally in a bubble? Soap.
Yeah.
Soap and what's
Water.
What's inside of a bubble?
Air.
That's why she said you gotta be careful with the table.
Cool.
Never get.
So like air, right? So if we can use the steam here, or the gas, we can, let's see if I can get in there. There's a lot coming off of this, so I don't know if it's gonna work.
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's not gonna work with this. So we just have to wait for, there's just too much coming out. So we'll have to give it a minute. See, it's like too much. Give it a minute, it's pushing out. So that might make a difference with those bottles.
Why do you rub it on there?
I don't see this hole on there.
Yeah.
There it is.
Ah.
They make bubbles. And it goes really fast because there's a lot coming out of it. Pew!
What the?
So this is why we get, kind of.
The awesomeness.
There we go. So again, it's
Don't
just
subscribe to this.
What happens
the
if I
gas
start?
that's filling up the bubble, so you can do all kinds of, you wanna pop it?
I want to pop it.
Woo, there it is.
This is what I'm pop
Don't subscribe to Jabari Ross.
Stop hating.
Don't subscribe.
Stop
Your
hating.
YouTube channel's trash.
I didn't know it. Go look up Johnny Norwood. He made a I Love You song.
So this is why chemistry can be pretty
Fun.
fun, you kind of play around with it. And chemists are incredibly important people to have. They're the ones that make all of our stuff, right? Everything from
Let us see how big it can get.
Yeah.
everything from like your toothpaste to, and shampoo, to the food and drugs that you consume, to, everything is done with
Whoa.
chemistry, right? Do you want to touch it?
Yes. Oh, I can't reach.
Does it pop?
Yeah,
Oh, that's.
it's kind of messy. It's kind of messy.
Oh, dang it.
Can you see how big it can get the bubble?
Should we have to put one more in?
Yeah, we'll have to, ooh, we got one on the ready. Perfect.
Here we go.
Yay. Now, what's really cool about dry ice is that NASA scientists are now discovering that this is what's on the polar caps of Mars, okay? And so, understanding how dry ice works, we can understand the different seasons on the planet Mars. So, if it's looking like this in one particular season and it's a solid form in a later season, that can tell us a lot about the planet and what it's made out of, and the different gases that are happening around it. But they are finding this on Mars.
Can you do another bubble?
Yes.
I want to see how big the bubble can get.
Nobody blow it.
Looks
That
weird.
one yesterday was cool when it was spinning. Good. Oh, I need more.
It's not
I don't even
formed.
know how we did that.
I had way
There
too
we go.
much
Oh, wow.
dish soap. And so it was creating all these bubbles. So it was a
See, some-
slide, like,
You know what happened? I think some of it ended up in there. I
Oh.
get so drunk in there.
yes,
And it
yes.
agitated.
I had like way too
That
much.
just came to me. Like, I know you said that, but I couldn't figure out why and how.
Oh, gotcha, yeah. It's always, but you never know. I mean, you just kind of play with it, and it's kind of fun. It's just filling up with, ew, but you see how heavy that gas is, so that's why
So isn't water now carbonated?
it's a good question. Not necessarily, because it's all coming out as a gas.
The bubbles are too big.
So after you get done, you can just drink it then? No, I'm asking a
It's
question.
a good question.
It's
a really,
soapy.
it's a good question. Yeah, it's super soapy, I would.
So what do they do to make dry ice?
Ooh, good question. So one of the huge dry ice plants in the country that makes it, because it has to be kind of manufactured, because you have to be able to get down to negative 120 degrees to make it. So that's a really strong, powerful freezer, essentially. And then you've got to be able to contain your carbon and your oxygen. And carbon dioxide is 2 parts oxygen and carbon. And being able to put those together in a factory at this temperature, you have to have a pretty big plant for that. One of the big ones in the country is in Albion.
Okay.
So
So
actually,
do they
you can go
use,
right over there and.
so do they use like nitrogen for it?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how
Like
they
to make
produce
it, make it cold?
Right, like what do they have to do to get it that cold? That's a
Yeah.
good question, because they produce dry ice for other people to get things really cold. So if you're at your local ice cream parlor, they might use dry ice to keep their stuff really, really cold, for longer periods of time.
But what happened if we touch the water?
The water is okay, but because there's dry ice in there, we're not gonna
Oh,
do that.
I'm saying,
No.
oh, could you pop it?
But so just as kind of like a fun demo of how not all things will move through 3 states of matter. This is one kind of defining element that does it. We're gonna have you guys do another one.
What do you mean?
We have another activity for us.
Slide.
Yeah, this is just to kind of get the party
What I
started.
want you guys to do is move back to the table.
Make your own now. We want you to table. Keep in mind the potential is very messy, okay?
Do we have partners?
So nope, it's just you, but it's up to you on how messy you get. So you guys kind of contain your, know, your control, you won't have stuff all over you, okay? Try to keep the table. Okay? The less we leave for the janitors, the better.
Alright, so I'm gonna walk this around and talk 3 states of matter, right? What state of matter do I have here?
Liquid.
Liquid. This is not just a liquid. This one's actually what's referred to as a non-Newtonian fluid. Has anybody heard that word before? No. A non-Newtonian fluid is a little bit different than a standard liquid, okay, for a couple different reasons. First, it's like, imagine I had a jar full of marbles. I meant to tell you to bring a jar full of marbles. I forgot.
Yeah.
Imagine I had a jar full of marbles and I tried to put my finger in it. Could my finger go into the marbles?
No.
Like into the jar?
Yeah.
Yeah. The marbles
Push
are gonna
down
kind
in,
of-
right?
The marbles are going to move out of the way, right? That's what happens with most liquids, okay? Marbles would be more like a mud, okay,
But
where it's a
pepper
little
and
bit
water.
thicker. But you're going to put your hand in there, and all those marbles, if they were molecules, they kind of move out of your way so that your finger can get down there, okay?
Pepper, water, and dish to put on your finger.
What?
Pepper, water, and dish to put on your finger. And you put the
Pepper, water, yeah, if I were, that's a good analogy right there. If you imagine you had pepper floating in water, okay? And you put your finger in there, all that pepper flakes are, they're just gonna kind of move away from your hand, okay? They're gonna get out of the way. That's what happens with the water molecules in a liquid, okay? Well, the molecules in a liquid. With water, that's what happens is that those molecules move out of the way. Now, with a solid, however, I can't just put my finger down and push through the table, correct? The molecules are still in there, but they're stacked together so tight, they cannot allow for things to move through it. That's the main difference between a liquid and a solid and a gas, okay, is how close those molecules are. In a liquid, they're going to be a little bit looser. In a gas, they're going to be all over the place and moving about, okay? Which is why we can flail about in air.
Put your hand through it.
It takes a little more work through water, and then if I were to do that against the wall, I'd just look like a fool. So, with a non-Newtonian fluid, it's going to act like a liquid whenever it's resting. You guys can see how it's easy to stir, it works pretty good. But it's a little bit different in that if I tap this, it's not going to splash. In fact, I'm not even getting wet. Because what I'm doing is I'm forcing those fluids, those molecules on top of one another at such a rate, it'd be like punching that jar of marbles, okay? Those molecules are gonna stack on top of one another, preventing me from doing that. So can you smack that?
I got some of them.
Smack it. No.
You gotta
Smack it. Smack it.
I got some of them.
See, when you go slow, the molecules are getting out of your way. When you smack, it's not gonna get you at all.
You got me. Barely.
You gotta put pressure on it. Pressure.
You want one, Annie?
What?
Drop your hand.
Oh, careful. Let me see what's really quick.
All right. So this is, a lot of people refer to this as oobleck. It is a non-Newtonian fluid. This actually happens in nature in one instance. Can you guys think of an instance where something might look
Like liquid?
like liquid, but it's really kind of solid, and maybe you think you might walk across it because there's enough particles in there? No, come on. That's a
Good guess, though.
It's a good
That's
guess.
still liquid, it will solidify.
It'll harden. But this is something that is, it is something you could walk on normally, but there's so much water in this, you'd actually sink down into
I
it.
see it in a lot of jungle movies.
Oh, quicksand.
Quicksand, yeah.
Yeah.
So quicksand is the only instance in nature that non-Newtonian fluids work. The more you fight in quicksand, the further down you're gonna go. You're gonna end up drowning, essentially.
There's a way you
the more relax, the more it behaves like a liquid.
Is there a way to escape?
So even with this, if I start, you can,
How?
Very still, you can't fight.
as I start pulling it, you
And
can
it
see
also
that
goes
it's
way
acting
out.
a little bit more solid,
You
like
try to get
where
flat.
that pressure
You
is.
try to get as much of your
See
body
that?
weight, body surface.
I thought that if you lay on your
You
back,
kind of want to like
What time are we going
fight
to
in
Christmas?
quicksand. You just try not to move, so you can like stand on it. The minute you start moving is when you.
oh,
Yeah.
440.
So what we're doing today is we're actually gonna be making this solution. You guys
We are gonna make your own,
Make your
okay?
own.
So everybody get enough space.
One.
Get enough space around you. Everybody's got enough space around you. Okay.
Will you pass out one of those and a spoon to each one?
Yeah.
Alright.
All right, so the ingredients today
You
are.
get one.
You get one.
Would you like to make some water?
No.
What What up, Mr. D?
I'm not one of those people who do that.
Thank you very much.
What up, Mr.
Something
D?
that we commonly use in cooking. It is a white powder, looks kind of like a powder.
Oh my god, it's someone.
Yes, or like a baby
It's like a
powder.
thing like
It's very fine.
Well, this is reasonable, yeah.
I was gonna say, you don't have to really make a mess up in your
Yeah,
hands.
no. In fact, we're hoping you don't touch it.
Right? That's okay. So when you make anything in a science lab, you're gonna pay attention to proportions. okay?
Proportions is
What
everything.
does proportion mean?
Got my bowl, got my
What
spoon.
does that mean? How much?
You got.
How much in relation?
What
to
up, Ricky?
Our recipe for oobleck, okay, is 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part water. Just 2 ingredients, that's all it is. 2 parts
What's up, Ricky?
cornstarch to 1 part water. When I say parts, what do I mean by that?
This is really
Yes.
important.
3-part thing? Like,
Well, there's 3 parts altogether, right? But what we've done is when I
Hey,
say
Ricky.
instructions, okay, so 2/3 of it is gonna be cornstarch, 1/3 of it is gonna be water. You're gonna use the same measurement.
I'm at 21st century.
So we have measuring cups today. We're gonna add 1/2 cup of cornstarch, okay? So this is a 1/4 cup right here.
I 1v1 you when I get home.
1/4 cup do you need for a half cup?
4, 2,
2. 2 quarters equal
1.
half, okay? So you're gonna add 2 scoops of cornstarch. Now, when you measure cornstarch, when you're measuring, again, in a science lab, if you have it overflowing, that's gonna change our recipe, okay? So when you're measuring this out, you're gonna kind of shake it in that bag a little bit until it's level. See that? Otherwise, our proportions are gonna be wrong. Your recipe is not gonna work. You're not gonna end up with the same product. It might be too crumbly, it might be too watery. It might not be that non-Newtonian fluid that we're really trying to make, okay? So you're gonna add 2 scoops of cornstarch. After that, we're going to do 1 scoop of water, and I'll come around with the water in a little bit. So, let me get another scoop here. All right, so I'm gonna have you guys start, put that in your bowl. I'm gonna have you start over here. You're gonna start over here and then pass it on.
Is Goodson only in jungle? Is that all?
No, it's actually coastal lake shores. Most often is where you're gonna find that. Is near a lake, near a large body of water.
Fill the whole thing up? You got another one right there.
Who can help me out what our instructions are?
It is.
Make it level.
Make it level.
And there gotta be 2 scoops, right?
I've only got a couple scoops.
2 scoops, right?
2 scoops, mm-hmm.
Butterfly dog.
That was good too?
Yes.
No.
That's fine.
Oh, this one's good.
Mr. D, what you do? You recording too, Mr. D?
I am, yes.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Why? Why are you giving up?
Alright, so we're gonna do,
Say what?
I got, let's see, green and blue. I do not have red.
Why would you wanna give up?
You can put 5 drops in there. What color is yours? Green.
Yes,
Green
you
gives you 5 drops.
What's your attitude?
Let's see here, who's got theirs? What color would you like yours to be? Yellow, green, or blue?
Kyo did record.
Can we store it up? Do you want yellow, green, or blue?
Right. Portion with
I don't have
water
red.
is very
Yeah,
important.
blue is coming, we'll put it in
You have to have the perfect amount.
Blue. Are you done with it? Oh, it doesn't even look like it. It will once we start mixing.
No, you do your thing.
Well, if you feel that way,
Don't come. Nobody's making you come in here.
Can I get a tissue?
I do
Let's
not.
leave this till the end. Does that make sense, Emily? Wait till the end?
Yes. I was gonna, do you know what paper towel?
Five drops, right?
All right, 5 drops, yes. Okay, now we're gonna use a new scoop. This is also 1/4 cup, okay? When you measure out of here, again, you're gonna wanna make sure that it's full all the way to the brim, okay? If you don't fill it to the brim, you're gonna get incorrect measurements. When you come around, you can add 1 scoop, and then you're gonna gently stir it until it's all mixed together.
Jakari, how much you put in here?
I didn't get, oh no, 1 scoop.
I need another scoop of that yellow white stuff.
What we can do is a little more or less water. She'll get you, don't worry.
Here.
Same.
Get out of here, Javari.
I want to make some slime.
Because of the type of fluid that it is, again, it's non-Newtonian. See, when you do this, you're gonna wanna make sure again that you fill it all the way to the full, okay?
You gotta have the intro to go with it.
Nope, this is my only blue. Would you like some green?
How many times do I put the water in there? Do I put the water in only once?
Just once.
Yes.
Can I stir it up?
You just have to start stirring a little bit. Slowly
I
but
mean,
surely.
cooking up in a pot, hey.
Instead of a rough stir, you're gonna wanna like fold, you know, like scoop and come over, and in cooking, they call that a fold. You're just kind of folding it over. Make sure you get all the white stuff kind of mixed in.
Did you get enough dye in there?
I didn't get no
I got green, is that okay?
Where all the color go?
Now make sure you have 1 full.
Javari, what's wrong, bro? Can you cook for me?
Can you fill a little fuller? Just the whole thing.
So what you have to do to make it.
Dip it one more time.
Can you cook for me?
Huh?
Can you cook for me?
Can I, what?
Can you cook for me?
And again, it's the amount of water that's critical.
Got some scissors.
I do not have scissors right there. That's, yeah, sorry, that's not in there.
Record. Making slime.
I got you.
If you think you've got it mixed in there, try and tap it like we did when we went around. See if you can kind of pull at it in your dish as well.
I got it right.
Thank you.
We'll give you guys a couple more minutes to kind of mix it together. Then I'll show you some videos of it actually on much.
We want you guys to see these videos.
Yeah, we made slime.